to sit down. They don't sit down. Sit down, everybody. They don't sit down. They refuse to sit down. They don't sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. They refuse to sit down. They don't sit down. If I don't go all the way, if I don't win, do the mistake. A complete waste of energy and money and money and money and money and money, money, money. I don't look back and say I wish I didn't do this or that. I'm not stupid. It's a fact. I never had a drink. The thing that gets me in trouble is the retweet or killing the tweet. I retweet and respond to what they did to me. I'm gonna fight back. It's not a one-way street. I go hard. I go hard. If I were soft, I would not have gotten this far. I go hard. I go hard. I go hard.
I'm familiar.
Yes, you are hard.
Some have suggested that you refuse to release your tax returns because of your extreme privacy concerning your hobbies.
Yes.
So can you confirm or deny this list of personal pastimes?
Yeah, I guess so.
Fingerboarding,
I go hard.
Minecraft,
I go hard.
podiatry,
I go hard.
hacky sack,
I go hard.
balloon animal,
I go hard.
breeding cats,
I go hard.
CrossFit,
Waste of time.
coloring,
I go hard.
doing Zumba,
I go hard.
water polo,
I go hard.
playing tuba, spray tan,
I go hard.
driving Uber,
I go hard.
putting together a bed frame from IKEA,
Waste of time.
while you're sequencing the entire human genome.
Waste of time. Waste of time. Waste of time.
Cytosine,
Waste of time.
guanine,
Waste of time.
adenine,
Waste of time.
thymine,
Waste of time.
all the means.
Waste of time.
Here we go, hour one.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future. In here, the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. So we have a lot to go over tonight. YouTube is not going to be with us very long tonight because we've got some very heavy news to go over tonight. And we all know that Google routinely violates our civil rights by censoring us, and we're not going to allow that. So after this first segment, we will be saying adieu to YouTube, and I encourage you to follow us because we're coming to you live through the Truth Frequency Radio Network on audio, to AM and FM stations all over the world. This is where the Truth Freaks hang out, and we are not afraid to let our Truth Freak flag fly. Tuning in here will treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. We're also streaming to you live on Foxhole, Twitch, Facebook, DLive, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and Rockfin. So if you don't catch us live on any one of those venues, you're missing out because we're everywhere. In fact, the Facebook feed is pretty darn good. I've watched it several times myself, and the video and audio comes through very nicely. The chat room is full of people. Old Dog is there, Jenny Girl is there, Top Drifter is there, A. Carpenter is there, and others. Let's see, who do we have? Baba Susie's up there in Canada, Rehab, Andres. So it's filling up, and we appreciate our chat room so much. We're also streaming to you live on Foxhole, and there's a chat room going there too. Shout out to Sherry Pittsburgh, who's out there watching in Canada. So appreciate all that. So the first story I have tonight is just to allow our YouTube people to stay with us. It is the true source of water on the earth. You know, 70% of the surface of Earth is water. And at least 70% of every human being is water. Nothing on Earth can survive without water. And the origin of water on Earth is really the origin of life in the solar system and possibly the universe as we know it. Now, figuring out where and how our world obtained its water might be key to finding life on other worlds. But the truth is, unless you've read the Arc of Millions of Years series of books, which we first published in 2004, you won't really know for sure where the water came from. Nonetheless, it is commonly accepted that one potential mechanism for water delivery was bombardment from water-bearing asteroids, comets, when Earth, as we know it today, was much younger. But a new analysis of rocks collected from the moon and brought to Earth during the Apollo era suggests that this might not actually be the case because there's a lot of water on the moon. According to a team of researchers at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, the likeliest explanation is that Earth formed with its water. In other words, it was here all along. Of course, we maintain in the Arc of Millions of Years that it actually merged with a water planet, and that's the origin of the global flood that is recorded in just about every national tradition. Earth was either born with water, the water we have, or we were hit by something that was basically pure water with not much else in it. Now, this work eliminates meteorites or asteroids as possible sources of water on Earth and points strongly toward the born with it option. The moon might seem a strange sort of place to look for Earth's water. It's dusty, it's dry, it's not wet at all. But as it turns out, the moon is a great place to study Earth's history. We should go back there as soon as possible. The moon formed when two massive objects, one roughly the size of Mars, the other a little smaller than our world, smacked together and reformed into blobs that would become Earth and its moon, according to Lawrence Livermore. Earth's memory of this event has weathered over time, but because the moon has no plate tectonics or weather, geological evidence doesn't erode the same way. That's not to say that there are no processes at all up there. Impacts from other objects and previous volcanic activity can alter the lunar surface. There are, however, some examples in the Apollo collection that are relatively unchanged. Now, according to the giant impact hypothesis, which we support in the Arc of Millions of Years, the giant smash-up 4.5 billion years ago actually depleted Earth and the moon of their volatiles. And that's why, under that model, the moon is so dry. And compared to other objects in the solar system that have water, the bulk of the Earth is pretty dry too, especially once you take into account its size. To understand the history of the Earth-Moon system prior to the giant impact, the team looked at 3 lunar samples that crystallized 4.3 to 4.35 billion years ago, examining 2 isotopes, volatile and radioactive isotope rubidium-87, and the isotope it decays into, which is strontium-87. Now, the latter is especially thought to be a good proxy for understanding the long-term volatile budget of the moon and relative abundances of moderately volatile elements, such as rubidium, reflect the behavior of more volatile species like water. Water is actually very volatile. It breaks apart pretty easily. This means that the different volatile distributions on Earth and the moon were inherited from Earth and Theia, which could explain why Earth is wetter. It also suggests that both bodies probably formed in the same general region of the solar system rather than Theia forming farther out and then migrating in, and that the impact couldn't have happened earlier than 4.45 billion years ago. We maintain that as well. We think that the impact with Earth was very smooth and very gradual, sort of like one planet catching up with another in the same orbit. And then when they came together, it was just months and months and months and months of chaos as the water settled onto the planet and went into the lower altitude areas called valleys and left the mountains and continents behind. Now, there are a few types of materials that could have combined to make the Earth and the Moon, and they're not really exotic. That is to say, they're not heavy like a neutron star or something. They were likely both just large bodies that formed in approximately the same area that happened to run into one another a little more than 100 million years after the solar system formed. But lucky for us, they did just that. I don't think if you go into the arc of millions of years, you can see where one planet went through the Milky Way, through the rift in the Milky Way, found this solar system, fell into orbit around this sun, basically creeped up on Earth or slowed down enough for Earth in this orbit to merge with it. And thus the higher vibrational and lower vibrational Earths came together in the great merging, which many traditions in the Earth around the planet record as the Great Flood. Now, we sort of clock the flood at about 6,800 years ago. It could have been way before that, and is just recorded as 6,800 years ago. But the theory in the arc of millions of years, and we're going to be going over this Wednesday night, not on this program, not on America Free Radio, but on Coast to Coast AM with George Noory. So hang around 10 p.m. Pacific. I'll be on with George. We're going to recap how the planets came together, what the cataclysm was like, and the advent that sometime in the end times, those two planets are going to come back apart. That's the whole basis for the Birth Trilogy. If you've read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't read it, you should get it, because about 100,000 people are going to do that this week, and the printers are going to be very busy. So you should do it as well. All right, let's see how much time we have in this particular time segment with Truth Frequency. We have about 15 minutes. So let me just see what is going on in the chat room really quick, because not going to cover that, Eric. What do you mean too many Chinese people on the moon? There's no Chinese people on the moon that I know of right now. Not Quite Human is out there as well. Nice to see you. Nice to see you out there. Jenny Girl's out there. The moon and water, interesting. Yes, there is a lot of chemical water on the moon. In fact, there's so much water on the moon, in the soil of the moon, and oxygen by weight, that if we were to build a colony on the moon, or in the moon more realistically, in the volcanic vents of the moon, we could use the helium-3 that's on the moon in the Shackelford crater in the sort of center of Schrodinger's basin, which is the south pole of the moon. We could seal up one of the volcanic vents, pressurize it with air, and we could supply our own energy, our own water, and our own oxygen just from the soil of the moon. We don't need any more resources like that from Earth. We don't need to take Earth atmosphere and export it to the moon. Just a few tanks, that's all we need. The right equipment up there, we can make our own water, our own air, and our own energy. And we would have a lunar colony up and running in very short order. I'd say less than 20 years we could get that going. We have all the equipment to do it. All we have to do is move it to the moon and basically 3D print up the opening, seal it up with an airlock in it, and we could have a colony on the moon. Just like that. Yeah, we don't have to take any seawater or anything like that to the moon. We can not deplete any more resources on the Earth than are necessary to get it started. Nice to see you, Dawn, on Foxhole as well. Yes, in a few minutes I will turn on the scratch offs in a few minutes on Foxhole, and you'll be able to gather up some gold pills. So just let me check and see how many people we have hanging out at YouTube. Quite a few. You know, we have about 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I'm so grateful for that. It took us years and years and years to build it up. We don't want to lose it. We like all the notifications to go up. We love our YouTube followers. But you know and I know that Google routinely violates our civil rights here by censoring us, sometimes taking us off the air for months at a time. We don't want that to happen anymore. So before I get into the real good news and the things that we need to talk about, we're going to have to let YouTube go. We're going to have to censor YouTube. You understand what I'm saying? So that means if you're on YouTube right now and you're listening to us live, look right down below. See where it says more, that little blue, that one. Yeah, that one right there. Click that. Click that. Okay, see how that opens up? Links to all the other free speech platforms open right up. Foxhole's there, Twitch is there, Facebook is there, DLive is there, Twitter is there, Rumble is there, Rockfin is there. Click on any one of them, and we're streaming live right now in video, just like YouTube used to do. You know, remember when YouTube was really a cool place to go? When it used to be the free speech platform for the people because it was YouTube, kind of our tube. But now it's their tube, and we don't have that anymore. So if you'll make the transition, I'll meet you over there, okay? We have about 12 minutes before we have to take a break. We have people listening from Canada to Australia to Cleveland, Ohio, to all kinds of places. And we want to keep you all. So if you're listening on YouTube, slide on over to one of the other free speech platforms. You don't have to stay on YouTube. It's great. It's great if you want to learn how to work on your Harley Davidson or how to change brakes on your Toyota or how to do crochet. YouTube's wonderful. But if you want any kind of free speech, open-minded discourse, not going to happen on YouTube. So make the move, and I'll meet you over there. I'll see you, YouTube. We'll see you on Wednesday night.